what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to the call out of Steve McRae, aka Deceive McClown. If you're new to this channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal link in the info box below the video. I am joined by Anthony Riley, aka Sleeping Warrior, and John, aka Quantum Eraser. How you both doing, gentlemen? Good to have you here.
Yo, yo.
Hello. So,
hello.
A couple of days ago, I called out Deceive McClown, let's get the name right, on the Hangout show after Zell BTD came on and essentially accused me of not going off platform, which I absolutely have done on Steve's show. And when I responded with, well, the person you're citing is the very person I've been on the show of, what's your reason for him not going on my show? And his answer was, he wouldn't give you air, he's a genius, or he is an Einstein compared to blah, 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 blah. So off the back of that, my blood boiled and I was like, right, well, I'll call out Steve McClown right now. He can come on my show and debate his religious belief in a ball earth. And off the back of that, John got in touch and was like, yeah, Steve is a clown. I have plenty of examples. So, I don't know, John, maybe you can give us some.
Yeah, it was Zell BTT that came on the show. It was Debate 361. And he started, with his diarrhea of the mouth, he said, Steve McRae is a smart man. He's an Einstein, right? And I said, well, wait a second. Are we talking about the same person? Is this Steve McClown of the Clan McClowns? And apparently it is. So let's see how smart this man is and if he's an Einstein. Let's just get right into it. So Steve McRae, or McClown, of the Clan McClowns. And this is from Allie B. The teacher explains to the great debate community as if flat earth. And here's the time for you. Steve McClown. The speed of sound is constant in a vacuum, right? Boy, that rings true. He's a real Einstein with that one, huh? My word. Then from Jeranism and Soundly, flat earth predictions and modeling. The time 1443. Steve McClown. Dark matter is gravity. I don't know. Did he get that from Captain Kangaroo University? I'm not sure. Then from Jeranism and Soundly, same one, flat earth predictions and modeling. That's a false equivocation. Well, wouldn't that make it no equivocation, Steve? Unbelievable. This is from a comment that challenged Steve's science acumen. And Steve McClown's response, I don't agree with it. I never heard this before in my life. An independent variable is the cause. Dependent variable is the effect. It's an if this, then that question. I'm not following her. She's not making any sense, right? I mean, this is the whole foundation of the scientific method. I'll show you. From the University of North Carolina. In an experiment, the independent variable is a variable that is varied and manipulated by the researcher, and the dependent variable is the response that is measured. An independent variable is the presumed cause, Steve, whereas the dependent variable is the presumed effect. Right? Okay? Welcome to 6th grade science. From Penn State University, the scientist applies his or her present knowledge to predict the effect of the independent variable on the dependent variable. The prediction is a statement of expected results of the experiment based on the hypothesis. The prediction is an if and then statement, Steve. You'd fail 5th grade general science. Another peccadillo for Steve McClown. Eternal doesn't violate the second law of thermodynamics. Really, Steve? Well, from the late Stephen Hawking, this argument about whether or not the universe had a beginning persisted into the 19th and 20th centuries. It was conducted mainly on the basis of theology and philosophy, with little consideration of observational evidence. This may have been reasonable given the notoriously unreliable character of cosmological observations until fairly recently. The cosmologist Sir Arthur Eddington once said, "Don't worry if your theory doesn't agree with the observations, because they are probably wrong." Here comes the punchline. But if your theory disagrees with the second law of thermodynamics, it is in bad trouble. In fact, the theory that the universe has existed forever, that means eternal, Steve McClown, is in serious difficulty with the second law of thermodynamics. The second law states that disorder always increases with time. Like the argument about human progress, it indicates that there must have been a beginning. You're a clown. Oh, and another one. This is priceless. Steve McClown. There are hypotheses. That's good. Where prior to t equals 0, a universe existed where entropy ran reverse from a higher concentration to a lower concentration, which could have been a repeating cyclic process. I mean, you got to be kidding me. From higher concentration to lower concentration, Steve McClown, isn't entropy in reverse, Crayon Muncher? It's the direction of entropy. For goodness sakes. Here's another one, Steve McClown. This is great. Unless you can determine our assumptions are wrong, it means absolutely nothing. So what? Everything is based on assumptions. And this is from Flatline, the Flat Earth Open Stream to challenge Red's Pretenderic. Time 31:55. Well, you daft muppet. If somebody claims or assumes that dark matter is created by invisible three-toed gnomes throwing pixie dust in a black hole behind the Crab Nebula, the assumption stands unless somebody can disprove it? According to you? I mean, you gotta be insane. You're one certifiable crayon muncher, sir. And then the last one, this was just a couple days ago. I think he had I can't remember which video it was on, but he was reading his super chat. And he said epitome. He kept saying it. Epitome, epitome. I'm sitting there, what the heck is epitome? And then I looked at the chat box and it had this. Epitome. It's epitome, Steve. I mean, my word. You can't make this stuff up. So, what has happened is I have some history with this clown, and following this presentation right here, we're going to mirror two videos from 18 months ago where I took Steve McClown and his clan McClowns along with Dr. Mary Schweitzer and Professor P.Z. Myers to the woodshed and bludgeoned them senseless. So we're going to see, I mean, if you can't see this by now, if this guy's a smart man or he's Einstein. I agree with this part, by the way. We're going to see after this in these two videos. That's all I got.
I got two things. Run that by me, the bit where you said Steve believes that if the assertion is made until somebody disproves it, it stands.
Yeah, that was a great one.
Because that's the same approach that is it Awake Souls, Nathan? No.
Yeah, Jason. Basically, if you can't disprove that I've debunked it, or if you can't disprove my assertion about you, then it stands.
Yeah. So that's it. That runs aside to Jason Awake Souls, who claims that unless you've debunked his claim in the first place, it stands as truth, despite the fact that he hasn't proved his claim originally to even be true. So unless you can debunk it, it stands as truth, according to Jason. Well, that's the standard that Steve McClown applies, and that is complete nonsense. And the other one, the epitome, the fact that he doesn't know how to pronounce the word epitome is the epitome of stupid. It is. If you don't know how to pronounce the word epitome or know what the word epitome means, that is the epitome of stupid. It's like when someone says they've taken the word naive out the dictionary and they believe it. Well, he is the epitome of stupid. I'm done. Oh, sorry, one last thing. Steve, you can't...
There's going to be a lot of one last things. I'm not going to round out till you've all got it out your system.
Steve, You can't moderate for shit, man. You're terrible at it. You can't allow people to do the scattergun approach in moderation. That's not the way to mod. You let them point by point and you get closure on each point. Don't allow scattergun. That's ridiculous. I'm done.
Any more in your arsenal, John? I'm happy to keep this short and sweet because afterwards I'm going to spend half an hour to an hour mirroring those videos from Cathexis channel. I will put links to Cathexis. Cathexis is ace. So check out Cathexis. But yeah, I'm going to mirror a couple of... how long ago are they, John? About 18 months ago. Maybe that's the way to round out. Tell us those two, what would you call them, dissections that you did on Cathexis channel, and then we'll round out.
Yeah, like I said, it was Dr. Mary Schweitzer was a guest on their show talking about, the soft tissue and DNA. She's pretty famous for that discovery. And then P.Z. Myers, he's a evolution clown, just one of them. There's many clowns, but he's one of them. And Cathexis and I decided to go ahead and really eviscerate these things. And what had happened was, though, after the videos were completed, they were personally sent to each person, Steve McRae, Dr. Mary Schweitzer, and P.Z. Myers, and the challenge: rebut these. Guess what? All of a sudden, no speakers the English, right? All we got back were crickets. Yeah, and that speaks volumes. But the people that watch these videos, I ain't got anything to say. You just watch those videos and they'll do the talking for me.
So as it stands, it's a little reminder then, me mirroring this video, a little nudge in the direction of those particular people. And the ball that got the straw that broke the camel's back would in this case be Steve McClown. So thank you very much for Steve's input in this regard. But this is where this is tailed end from. We had a big sort of explanation from John before we went live, which is why we were a little bit late. But ultimately, I think that's probably enough to wrap it up. Unless you want to give any more background to this, John, which you may want to now you've gone through it a little bit and you have the opportunity to.
Yeah, well, it started right off the bat. I mean, I wasn't in Flat Earth 1-2 weeks, and it was right before that our little rumpus debate that got deleted. But somebody went ahead and downloaded that, and you went and mirrored it on your other channel. But in the same hangout as Rumpus, and I just met these guys, Steve McClown was in there. And, of course, it was the typical 9 ballers against me. Right? That's the typical when it first started out, that's how it went. So now the tables have turned a little bit. Anyway, we were on there and Steve was saying, okay, I've had enough of this. I've defeated creationists left and right for years. You start, name dropping. And I said, oh, really? I said, hey, no problem. I said, give me your email address right now. And he did. And I said, I'm going to email you right after the show and we'll get together and we'll go ahead and do this debate, me and you, on creationism, right? So I emailed him like the second after the show was over, I emailed him. And a week and a half later, I get a reply back and he goes, okay, ready. So I said, okay, when do we want to do this? And he said, well, we first need what the topics that you're going to discuss are. And I said, well, number one, I'm not telling you the topics I'm going to discuss. And number two, who's this we? It's me and you. Right? And he goes, oh, no. The we is me and my panel of PhDs. And I said, what in the world? I said, wait a second. Okay. I said, listen, it's still a deal, but I want each PhD alone. We can do 6, 10 shows. It doesn't matter. We'll go in step, and I want each of them by themselves. And then I want you. And guess what happened after that? Crickets, right? So this guy's a clown, and I exposed him, like I said, 18 months ago. But that Zell BTD brought him up, and it just set me over the edge. So, long story short, that's it.
I think that perhaps Anthony might be a little bit reminded of a situation where there was 9 ballers against an assertion he was making.
Well, Steve, when we were going through the Isle of Man stuff, once we got towards the end of it and we were closing it off as an issue of debate, discussion, and disagreement, the original assertion was, "What's this land?" And the land was referring to the floaty land at the north of the Isle of Man. And without any consideration whatsoever of the video in hand with the question at hand, it was declared void by Steve because the rumpus had basically presented a load of stuff, right? None of which was on topic, none of which addressed the claim that was made, all of which addressed all the things that were going through the debate show. And some points were stuck, some points were conceded, some points were acrimoniously conceded. But nonetheless, all of the points that he presented were points on tangents, not on topic. And Steve declared the evidence as void, and in doing so, basically left us with nothing to talk about after an hour and say, 10 minutes or so. And it was then when I realised that, well, if you're going to declare the evidence as void without consideration of said evidence, then what is this that we're actually engaged in? Because this is not a debate. This is not a disagreement over evidence. This is just literally boulder dashing because we haven't even considered the claim. And Steve, that's ridiculous. You can't deem a claim as invalid without consideration of the evidence in the first place, even if it comes from rumpus. It was a ridiculous claim that you made and a ridiculous decision. And you didn't even, you can't not consider the evidence, Steve. I wasted an hour of my life with you on that show. It was wasted. Foul. It's a yellow card. Oh, one last thing.
One last thing.
Water is not an element. It is a compound.
Oh, I can't leave that open. God damn you. John, can you just give us your feelings and thoughts on that? Because otherwise you'll get quizzed in the comments and it'll take you an eternity typing out messages to people.
Water is a compound. Okay, it's not an element. You pull up the periodic table of elements and water's not there. Now, I understand it's just a convention. All right, it's arbitrary, but we're going with the definition of their science. We have to go with some type of definition, so let's use their definition. All right, so by definition, water is a compound. It's not an element.
Yep.
But you have to add stuff to it to get it to, through process of electrolysis, separate.
Nah, you don't. The argument, what he thinks is that because it's a good insulator, pure water as a good insulator, he thinks that makes it a compound, an element. But unfortunately, because it's not an element, all you're doing is adding conductivity to the water to allow it to pass a current easier. And it's that passing of a current that he thinks makes it an element, because he doesn't think you can get anything else out of it. But in any event.
Yeah, just to let everyone know, this isn't one of Steve McClown's claims.
No, not
this
at all.
This is off topic. So let's deal with this one some other time.
Yes, indeed.
But Nathan, what was your experience? You went on the show with Anthony, correct?
That's correct. I had a very lovely time. Thank you very much for having me, Steve. I'd hope that you'd return the favour and come on my show. That's my only beef.
Did something happen during that show? Like you were invited and you thought it was just going to be like one or two of the ballers defending? What happened?
No, not particularly. I mean, he didn't leave me in any respect, but what I do know is what actually happened, which was that there was about, I mean, I said 11, that's just a number I put out the air. I don't actually know. I didn't count the amount of people that went through, but it was one after the next, while they chatted in the back chat and worked out their mathematical formulas between them to try and debunk Chris. I mean, I thought it was a good time. You know, I enjoyed it. Ultimately, I agree with Anthony. He declared the entire observation invalid based on Rumpus debunking Google Earth, which, you know, I take that as a win personally. So I'm like, you know, if anybody ever says from now on that Google Earth is a model of Earth, you just laugh at them because of that. So I take that as a win. I don't know. I should be putting some more negative spin on him. The guy's got a silly beard.
No, you don't have to go down that route.
He can't moderate for shit. He allows
he piled people in.
He allowed.
For us, it was an away game. There you go.
Disgusting.
I'll put my, you know, neutral, if not slightly negative feelings on it, which is that we are the underdogs. We do not have science on our side. We are a tiny fringe community of flat earthers. And I approached Steve to put our argument across on his show to spread the word. So you would assume that there is going to be a fairly even playing field. you know, if not, as it's an away game for us, that you'd hope, you know, it might even give us a little bit of leeway. But we didn't get anything like that. What we got was baller after baller after baller, obfuscating everything we said, ignoring the evidence, and then declaring a victory based on Steve McRae declaring the evidence completely invalid because Google Earth is wrong, according to them. So yeah, it was a bit of a farce in that regard, but you know that was the debate, though. You know, that's what makes a debate a debate. It's not necessarily about who's right or wrong. It's about who can convince the audience. And in that instance, the audience was convinced by the ballers' side. So I'm not going to be a sore loser and go, you know, that was a loss for me, because it was a loss in the regards that the audience saw the point as being won based on Google Earth being wrong. Now, if you actually weigh that up as a baller, that's kind of weird. But, you know, I'll take that as a win, thank you very much. So I was quite pleased with the outcome. But on the other hand, it would be nice if Steve came on this show and actually put forward his beliefs in his religion, which is what he has, a religious belief. And also, you know, since then, I think it was probably the next day, I don't know if that's right or wrong, but it doesn't matter. Jaren released a video showing something that I was a little bit, you know, raised an eyebrow when I saw that one of his co-presenters, I don't know any of their names, I'm really sorry, but one of his co-presenters had been in a discussion with Jaren and non-verbal over a messaging service, I don't know which, and the discussion was about the moon landings, and in essence the guy had said that he didn't believe the moon landings were true. Jaren did a double take, metaphorically speaking, and said, "You what? You don't think the moon landings are true?" He got clarity, like I tend to do on this debate show, which is to say you pin down what people's evidence are, what they're actually asserting, make it very clear, and that's precisely what he did. He gave the alternative Alex Jones narrative of beating the Russians or some other horse crap, but ultimately speaking, he was giving an alternative narrative to the mainstream narrative of the moon landings. And Steve picked up on this, essentially completely reverse spun what was being said, denied it completely in the face of having screen caps of it being sent to him, or claiming that he had exactly the conversation sent to him, and spun it into it being a joke, which it, from what I could ascertain on the words that were said, I mean, it's not like it's Spanish, we didn't need any translation, you could see the words on screen, it was shown. Now, they were private conversations, but ultimately speaking, when somebody then goes back on their word, i.e. this co-host, and it certainly appeared, I can't really say conclusively, but it certainly appeared like he was coerced by Steve to change his opinion for the public. That, to me, is a foul also. Why are you changing anyone's opinion? If somebody has a differing opinion to yourself, Steve, it seems unreasonable, for the sake of your audience, to force your co-host to change his opinion on something and basically declare that it's a joke when it's pretty clear it wasn't. You know, that did lower my opinion of Steve McRae in a massive, massive way. I just thought you're manipulating reality by virtue of you changing people's opinion around you to your own narrative, whatever fits best. In this instance, the mainstream narrative. You know, the guy's a cuck. And not only is he a cuck, he's a zealot that's pushing his religion onto everybody around him and everybody in his audience. And that is the reason why I want to debate him. Not because he's wronged me in any way, but I understand entirely what John's brought up and what Anthony feels aggrieved at as well. You know, at the time, I saw it pointless as well. I dropped eventually and got accused of rage quitting, which I knew would be the outcome. It doesn't fuss me. But it'd be nice to have Steve on asserting his religious beliefs to us on this panel, see how he does get on. And I would like to practice what I preach and say that I wouldn't intend to have a mass of people coming in. If he was to get in touch and say, I'd like to come on, I'd like to keep it actually closed, not have it public so anyone can pile in, and have it a fairly even discussion, i.e. maybe a couple of people at the most, 3-on-3 if he really insisted, if that's how he wants to play it. But ultimately it's Steve that I'd like to chat to about his religious belief, which he asserts often. So yeah, I'd like to see Steve for those reasons. Hopefully that's enough summary from me. Anything else you guys want to go and add to this discussion or not?
Yeah, Steve. Bring evidence.
Oh, yes. Sorry. That I did say that when I called him out on the debate. So, yes, bring scientific evidence, please.
Amen.
Amen.
Okay, well, I think that's probably the right moment to thank you two. So a massive thanks to John and Anthony for joining and calling out Steve alongside myself. So thank you to you two guys.
No worries.
You're very welcome, sir. And get those mirrors up.
I will. I'll get those up just as soon as we finish this live stream. So I will also say a massive, huge, enormous thank you to all of the live audience for joining us and hopefully sharing the show. If you hated it, then you know exactly what to do. But if you liked it, maybe share it with a friend. If Steve's your friend, definitely share it with him. And maybe subscribe if you've not done so already. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!